Welcome back to my channel, and today we are doing a throwback right out of the 90s, before the turn of the millennium, with a Disney Channel original movie. And I'm wearing a Teen Liquid shirt today because the movie deals with water. Do you get it? Imagine it's the spring of 1999. You turn on the Family Channel because you're Canadian, and that's what the Disney Channel is called where you live, and you see a movie about a kid turning into a merman.
And you are certainly not turning into a mermaid.
Merman.
But for some reason your stupid brain doesn't know what it's called and it's 1999, so you can't just turn on the old World Wide Web and look up merman movies, so you're just stuck waiting for the Family Channel to play it again. And then it finally does. And you realize that it is called the 13th Year, which is not at all what your child brain expected it to be called, because it doesn't really have anything to do with mer people in the sense, but it does make sense in the confines of the story once you get there. So 13th Year, classic story of a kid turning into a half fish, tale as old as time. But before we get into the movie, do you know it's not out of the 90s? Today's sponsor, Raycon. Raycon are the most comfortable wireless earbuds I've ever tried, and they start at about half the price as other premium wireless earbuds on the market. And because they provide a variety of colors and multiple bud size options, you'll always be able to find your perfect pair and noise isolating fit. With 6 hours of playtime, a compact charging case, and seamless Bluetooth pairing, Raycon are my go-to when listening to audiobooks, exercising, doing chores, and taking advantage of the minimal sunny days I've been getting up here in Canada. After a long winter of sitting on my butt, it's been great to get some fresh air while still listening to the books I need to for this channel. Whether you're at home, at work, at school, or commuting, Raycon have you covered. And if for some reason you're not completely satisfied, Raycon has a 45-day free return policy, because co-founder Ray J cares about your audio experience. So if you want to try out Raycon for yourself, head on over to buyraycon.com/Jedi or click the link in the description down below to get 15% off your Raycon purchase. Back to the Fishboy. So I haven't watched this movie in 15, maybe 17 years. If life could slow down, that would be great, but I digress. I feel like I pretty much remember everything that happens in this movie, but there's a strong chance that a lot of it is painted by nostalgia. Because at this point, I think the most interesting fact I know about this movie is that this kid waiting at the fountain is young Kristen Stewart. And at this point, she's probably now the most famous person that was in this movie. I guess her mom was the script supervisor for the movie, so nepotism at its finest, getting her this primo girl at water fountain role. Why couldn't my parents have been in the industry? I could have been girl at water fountain number 2. Let's just get into the movie. So it starts with a mermaid swimming with her baby, and Bubba Fishy here gets a glimpse of the tail and starts chasing her down through the water. And I just want to draw everyone's attention to this hat. Home is where the fish are hats walked, so women want me, fish fear me, could swim. But she ends up hiding her baby on this boat for some reason, because her plan of revealing herself instead of just hiding doesn't really make sense. Yeah, it distracted him, but you can breathe underwater. I guess you can't be too careful though, so whatever. And instead of either stopping the boat or redirecting it, he just stands there and waves at her like she's a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader and crashes. But before she can go get her baby back, this lovely couple notices that, hey, there's a random ass baby on our boat.
Oh, honey, that's just the sound of a baby crying. Baby!
And holy shit, I totally forgot that Dave Coulier was the dad in this. Would he dethrone Kristen Stewart? No, I still think she would be the biggest actress in this movie. Hang on, I'm gonna call my mom. She watched Full House, so should have a general idea of who Dave Coulier is, so maybe. I made her watch Twilight once. I still have that recorded to upload at some point, but let's see. I'm gonna scare her. I never call her out of the blue, so long distance charges may apply. So, do you know who Dave Coulier is?
Is he the guy from Full House?
He is the guy from Full House. Okay.
Oh,
do you know who?
Felt like I was on the spot.
No, you're good. Do you know who Kristen Stewart is?
Yes, I can't name a show she's been in, but yes.
Okay, who do you think would be more popular?
Oh, Kristen Stewart.
Okay, that's all I need to know. She's in Twilight.
And I could remember what he was in.
You
I
could.
didn't know she was bigger.
And I knew that. I knew that you watched Full House, but I just needed your expert opinion. So yeah, thank you. That's all I needed.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. There you have it, people. Kristen Stewart is more popular than Dave Coulier, even if you know that Dave Coulier was in Full House. But also, is it a baby in a movie without this sound? It's like they got one stock baby sound sometime back in the 80s and they're still using it to this day. So they obviously take the baby to shore and then the mom just has to watch as her baby is taken away by these humans. Brutal. And the true tragedy is that she lost her baby while trying to escape Bubba the fish guy here. So it cuts to 13 years later and our little mer baby here is all grown up, played by Ches Starbuck. Now I'm not one to insult someone's name, but I really just kind of want to talk to his parents. It kind of sounds like he could either be a fancy French French restaurant, or a porn star, depending on how you want to pronounce that first name. Chez Starbuck. Actually, it could probably work as a porn name either way. But his parents have achieved their goal of running a tour boat business, and Cody seems like a well-adjusted kid.
For $5, I expect much more.
Okay, even in 1999, $5 must have been dirt cheap for a boat tour. But he doesn't have time to deal with a busted boat. He's got a swim meet that he's late for. So we get the first hint that Cody might not be like the other kids when he beats the ferry to the dock. But he makes it just in time, yet somehow still only comes in second place, even though he just beat a boat. I get that ferries are kind of slow moving, but like, come on. I also thought this kid didn't like him, but it turns out it's his best friend.
Maybe he got tired of coming in second.
Good one, all right, hey, Marlon.
But hey, big wins from the two of them. They're going to states.
I'm proud of you, Tina.
Then everyone's favorite glasses kid that isn't actually everyone's favorite glasses kid falls into the pool. Yeah, I swear, these are not the same people. This is not the Sandlot kid. But I feel like the casting call probably said looking for a Squints lookalike. Though the astute listeners with great taste in television might be able to notice that this is the kid that voiced Phil the Scout from Recess. Still need to make my Recess video. But back to the fish movie. Now a couple things became immediately obvious to me. First, Cody is super popular. The swim team at this school is apparently the equivalent of football teams in high school. They're like little royalty. Second, the fact that this was his first acting role is very obvious.
Telling you, man, feels like I'm king of the world.
Yeah, I saw some notes about him having like an acting coach on set, and yeah. Not that I could do any better, but I'm just glad that this stuff doesn't hit child brains, because some of this line delivery is rough. If you're worried about Ches, don't be. He's doing just fine. You can learn all about his life on the YouTube cooking show hosted by Christy Carlson Romano of Even Stevens.
The merman is here for some clam chowder.
But Cody's got himself a girlfriend named Sam, but I think his friend is trying to steal her away.
You want to ride, Sam?
No thanks.
At first I thought she had a crush on Cody, but no, this is a genuine little junior high relationship going on here.
You are so lucky to be dating Cody Griffin.
And if Sam looks familiar, it's probably because you recognize her from the Jersey. Or not at all, because you're not old like I am. Then we're shown that Bubba Fischer is kind of the laughingstock of the dock, because he's told anyone who would listen about the mermaid and is still trying to catch her 13 years later, and wow, he's Glasses Kid's dad. Not sure where Mrs. Home is where the fish are is, but it's fine. Probably left when he got obsessed with mermaids. And while he might be king of the pool, Cody is apparently a pretty shit student and not at all stoked when he gets partnered up with Jess, aka Not Squints. But isn't that kind of the best case scenario for a bad student? You get partnered up with the smartest kid in the class for a project, so then you end up with a good grade? But they don't even add in some looming threat about him getting kicked off the swim team for bad grades. Like, there's very little conflict from his bad studentry. Either way, Jess is acutely aware of his position on the school ladder, and we get our first hydration scene.
Do you always drink this much? So I'm thirsty. I've been thirsty lately.
Just 10 out of 10 on that line delivery. I'm assuming this is one of the scenes that they shot earlier on. But Cody ends up inviting him to his 13th birthday party where his mom has made a beet cake.
What is it?
It's beet cake.
And that just reminds me of the Digimon movie where Ty's mom is making all of these weird foods with alternative ingredients.
Want to try my spinach cookies?
Kids, I made your favorite, liver sticks.
I made beef jerky shakes.
10 out of 10! And I swear I have never been more hydrated than I was while watching this movie. Every time he starts swigging back water, I suddenly feel super thirsty. But Sam comes in to give him a gift while he's sucking back more water, and it's a picture of her. Man, I wish I could get away with that. Hey, Mom and Dad, it's a gift of my face. And not because I'm too cheap to buy gifts. It's because I suck at it. But that's not all she got him. Man, that's like when your cat goes to smell your hand when there's a lot of static in the air and you shock his snoot and then you feel really bad. But they just take it as the tingle of the young love. Also, I kept checking up on the actors as I was going through this because they all looked super familiar, even though they haven't really been active since this movie came out, and I think it's just because I recognize them from this movie. According to Wikipedia, Sean gave up a life of acting to be a devout Christian. And Jess actually shows up to the party but leaves pretty quickly when Sean starts being a jerk and no one sticks up for him. But he still left a gift for Cody because he's a solid dude. Also, they live in a lighthouse. That is so dope. I want this house. But out in the water, something is lurking. It's just the mermom though, keeping an eye out on her land boy while he dreams of her. And when he wakes up the next day, things are getting extra weird. You thought your puberty was bad. Imagine accidentally sticking to things and doling out electric shocks. Okay, well, half of that is cool. If you're sticking to things during puberty, you should definitely talk to somebody about that. But I actually forgot that he had like the first on-screen live-action Spidey moment. Not sure what mer ability would make you stick to things, but okay. So he meets up with Jess down at the Cove and they make a deal. Jess will help Cody get a good science grade and Cody will teach Jess how to swim. Because for some reason, his mermaid-obsessed fisherman father never taught him how. But another thing I noticed is how much nerd culture has really shifted from the 90s to now.
And if you're not tough, you get eaten alive. Kind of like the real world, huh?
Maybe I'm just old, but it feels like there was a major shift between what made someone a nerd and what made someone cool, and a lot of those things intermingle more now than they did back in the 90s.
Nerds don't really have friends. We have hobbies.
Hey man, cool kids have hobbies too. But some more weirdness happens when Cody's hand literally starts to scale over. And to his family, it probably just seems like regular puberty stuff. Spending a little bit more time in the bathroom, being awkward, but thankfully the scales have receded and it's back to normal, I guess. They end up heading over to Jess's to work on the project, and not even Jess's one and only friend is spared from the mermaid talk. Because it's not just enough for him to be the pariah, his kid has to be one too. And his dad starts quizzing Cody on whether or not his parents have ever seen anything weird in the water.
My dad did catch a cuttlefish that looked like Regis.
Look, you may have been embarrassed by your parents, but was your dad the local mermaid conspiracy theorist? No, really, was he? I'd love to know. And here's Kristen Stewart waiting at the fountain. 10 out of 10 performance. You were gonna go on to do great things, sweetie.
What are you drinking? Oh, it's a spiced alcohol.
So his parents think he's trying to get out of school, but he's genuinely concerned that he's contracted some kind of disease from his bio parents. So his dad suggests that maybe they should call the doctor, but I guess his mom is not okay with that.
No doctor lays a hand on my baby.
And as worried as he is, he's not concerned enough to skip date night. Okay, so there's actually a couple of fuzzy vests in this movie, and I used to wear those. Were not my best moments. So back at home, the sticky comes back, and me and my friends used to like mimic this. I distinctly remember like we used to hold our water bottles in a way to make it look like our hands were stuck, and you're like, oh my God. But yeah, he ends up having the full committed Spider-Man moment where he accidentally climbs up the wall and sticks to the ceiling.
Call the doctor.
Doctor.
And this doctor astutely diagnoses him with puberty. So Jess agrees to run some tests. They realize that he starts growing scales specifically when he gets wet, and his dad overhears and looks like he knows what's up, but he definitely doesn't. Either way, foreshadowing. And this little dude has his own computer, prodigious. Here I am talking about not being able to connect to the World Wide Web in 1999. He's got a laptop. They take scale samples, he generates electricity, he can talk to fish like Aquaman. Oh my God, he grows up to be this dickhead. But the final consensus is that Cody really shouldn't go in the water, but he feels like he needs to be in the water.
Every time I'm in the water, I feel right.
And while Jess is looking up mermaid stuff, his dad walks in and starts telling him about a Swedish oceanographer that thought he took a picture of a mermaid who became the ridicule of the scientific community, but everyone clearly saw it as a scuba diver.
I guess it reminds me that there's someone out there crazier than me.
But Jess found something about the 13th year, and his dad basically explains that young mer people can walk on land with humans until their 13th birthday when the fish half starts taking over. And then Jess puts together the biggest piece of the puzzle. His dad saw his mermaid 13 years ago. So when the scales Cody is growing are identical to fish scales, he makes his hypothesis.
A what? A mermaid. Or a merman, I guess. I don't remember Ariel with this little ability.
And Cody's still obviously very confused about the electricity thing, but Jess is like, it's like eels.
Maybe I swam by some toxic waste. Or ate a mutant fish.
So Cody feels like his birth parents would be the key to answering all of this, but his other parents just don't seem to think there's anything worth getting concerned over. Your son was stuck to a ceiling and you're willing to accept puberty as an answer. Okay.
Mom, this is not a stage.
Oh man, are you telling me we almost had the perfect this is not a phase moment? They were so close. Mom, this isn't a phase. I didn't choose to be a fish. But they finally come around to think that something else may be going on when he shows them the scales that spread out the second he gets wet. I feel like most adoptive parents worry about the day their kids start asking about the bio parents, but I really doubt any of those conversations went like this.
Then maybe my birth parents, they're mer people too.
So they finally tell him that he's not just like any other adoptive kid and that somebody put him on their boat in the middle of the ocean. And then since no one reported a missing child, they adopted him.
And now 13 years later, I'm turning into a fish and nobody can stop it?
So the obvious solution for now is to stay out of the water. But Cody is an elite middle school athlete competing at state finals. And honestly, a 13-year-old boy that's not allowed in water is a recipe for Stinktown. But hey, at least he doesn't like fish food. So So his parents are rightfully freaking out. The dad wants to reach out for some help, but the mom knows he'll turn into some kind of lab experiment.
Well, what are we supposed to do, Sharon? Just stand by and watch while he turns into Dolphin Boy?
So he heads out for some fresh air at the cove and just can't keep himself out of the water. So he's doing a bunch of water tricks, his mermom is watching, waiting for the chance to talk to him, and then he shoots right out of the water like a majestic manatee. Anakin yippee so Cody could yahoo. Yippee! And just when he thought he was in the clear, no scales or anything, he grows fins. And of course, this is when Sam decides to show up.
Can I sit and look too?
No, I mean, no way I'd not want you to sit and look. No way.
And since he's been doing so many fish experiments and hanging out with Jess, he hasn't had much time for her, and she notices that he's being weird. And he's obviously being even more standoffish right now because he's hiding some fins in the sand. But it's not just Sam that notices how odd his behavior is. Sean smells the weakness and swarms in to re-explain to Cody how the school hierarchy works.
What do you have against Jess, Sean?
He's not one of us. We are the team, Cody. We are the guys everybody wants to be.
Again, apparently middle school swimmers here are gods. And Cody refuses to sit out the meet with Sean baiting him like this.
I'll be swimming too fast for anyone to see me anyways.
Cody, you have to get out of the water at some point. And this school, for some reason, has an underwater viewing room like an aquarium or in Free Willy. It just seems weird. I'd also just like to point out that the coach is just so damn peppy and enthusiastic for these middle school swimmers. It's not like anybody's getting a scholarship here.
State finals. Super Bowl of swimming.
Like, it's already intense enough that this junior high school has a pool, let alone an underground viewing room. And even though he's on lockdown and literally turning into a fish when he touches water, Cody sneaks out to participate in the meet, where Jess calls him a huge idiot that could end up floating in a tank on the Jerry Springer show.
And you don't even have cheerleaders. At least all the other dumb sports have cheerleaders.
But Cody doesn't listen to reason, does the race, and obviously kicks everyone's ass. But Sean is like neck and neck with him for most of the race until he grows the fins, which is very impressive considering he is not a mer person. Instead of hauling ass out of the pool immediately, he's like sitting there cheering and flexing in the pool while his fins are in full view. And look who's here and sees the fins, because he for some reason brought binoculars to a swim meet. I feel like if you were walking into a middle school with binoculars, someone might stop you.
Oh, your friend Cody is quite a swimmer.
But Sean sees the fins and obviously thinks he cheated, but how could he have put those on when he was already in the water? So then Cody finally notices the fins and shocks the scoreboard, which is a bold move that could have killed everyone in the pool. Like, I guess that's one way to keep your secret. Kill the competition! But he runs off, Sean starts chasing after him, but he Spider-Mans to the ceiling before running out to his parents who made it just in time.
Is there something you'd like to tell us?
I won my race.
Also, what a lovely sweater Mrs. Griffin has. So they're using a hairdryer to make the fins go away when Sam busts in and passes out.
Oh my gosh.
Sam, I can explain.
That seems extra. It's not like he had a gaping flesh wound or grew a second slimy head.
You actually think that Cody's a mermaid?
Merman.
Now, might not be looking for a super logical reaction from a 13-year-old who sees her boyfriend growing fins, but she is like disgusted by him.
It's not as bad as it seems.
Cody, you're a fish!
But Cody still ends up going to school the next day where Sean confronts him for cheating, and honestly, I get it. Does partially turning into a merman count as cheating? Like, that probably, yes. So a fight starts between the two, and Jess has a very self-destructive way of stopping it.
If you guys start beating each other up, what am I supposed to do between periods?
What a great friend. Truly the best friend that Cody has ever had. Then the teacher just lets Cody walk off, like no trip to the principal's office. Like 90s kids had it easy. So once again, he's at the cove processing everything going on in his life, and he just can't stop himself from going in the water, and he finally sees his mom. So they rainbow at each other until Bubba Fischer's boat comes through, and for some reason they surface. Like, pretty sure Cody can breathe underwater at this point, and she definitely can. So like, why did they surface when they saw a boat? Or why wouldn't just Cody surface? So Jess's dad obviously doesn't just see the mermaid, he also sees Cody swimming with her. Not sure why he's so shocked, because it seems like he's known that something's been going on for a while, but okay. But Cody, being a budding teenage boy, instead of calling Jess to be like, hey, I think your dad saw my mermaid mom, or telling his parents, he calls Sam. And wow, Sam had her own personal answering machine in her room in 1999? Fancy. And then it cuts over to Jess's dad preparing the Mermaid Catcher 2000. So Jess rushes off to find Cody, but he's already with Sam, who's finally willing to talk, even though she's a lot weirded out.
Yes, I am a lot weirded out, but who wouldn't be?
Remind me to introduce you to Jess.
Then Cody shows her his real mom, and the second he gets in the water, fins. But then he almost immediately starts to double over in pain. Sam rushes off to get his parents, and one of his feet starts turning into a tail fin.
What's happening to me?
You might have thought your growing pains were bad, but were they sprouting a tail bad? And then Jess's dad fish snaps him. But his plan's actually a pretty good one. He's gonna use an in-pain 13-year-old as bait to catch the mermom. And it works, though not sure how or why she wouldn't just swim out the bottom of this, but okay. Jess ends up getting there just in time to jump in the water to cut her loose.
Hey, I'm not dead!
But in his panic, the dad ends up breaking the net, which catches on Jess's foot and drags him down. And for some reason, the mermom doesn't pull through with the resave, and then his dad just jumps in the water and starts floundering around in circles. But don't worry, Cody manages to make it into the water and gets him out and has to use his electricity to jumpstart his heart after CPR doesn't work.
Was I dreaming? Or was your girlfriend just kissing me a second ago?
So now there's the awkward mermom human mom standoff. But all I'm currently wondering is, where did she give birth from?
She's beautiful.
Coulier, your wife is right there! And honestly, of all the cool things you could find out you are, merman would have to be pretty low on the list, right? Just having to swim around the ocean with seemingly no one, no ability to talk, but I guess they can, I don't know, maybe there's an entire mer world out there somewhere, so that would be pretty cool. But as far as I can tell, there's no cool school you get to attend or superhero group. But the moms seem to have like this telepathic conversation where the mer mom promises to have him back before the next school year starts. How? He's turning into a fish! I get the mom is gonna teach him some merman stuff, but like, what would suggest that he can turn back and forth? If so, that would bump being a merman up on the cool scale if you had the ability to go back and forth. But this makes me want a sequel. What did Cody learn while he was under the sea? Does he just get to come back all normal? Is he the missing prince of Atlantis? Does he command a fish army? Does he have who's its and what's its galore? How do you start high school after that? I just want to know. He also currently feels physical pain when he's not in the water because he sprouted a tail. Like, how does that just stop? And after missing out on a life with their child for 13 years, why would mermom want to give him back? So many questions and not a damn answer. It's been over 20 years. Oh my god, it's been over 20 years. But it all ends with his very own, very intense CGI Free Willy jump. And they swim off into the great unknown.
I finally get a friend, and he turns into a fish. This is so typical.
So yeah, this movie's a little rough, but it also rocks. It's one of the many classics that don't include a Disney star, wasn't based on one of their other movies, and isn't Camp Rock or High School Musical. It's also better than both of those. Camp Rock! Camp Rock! Sorry, Camp Rockers. But I had a great time revisiting this. It's exactly how I remember, and I really don't mind the awkward acting. My biggest takeaway is that it's a genuine tragedy that knockoff Squints here didn't go on to have a larger career. His last movie's credited in 2001, but he was an absolute gem in this movie. Justice for knockoff Squints. It's probably the Disney original movie that has the most nostalgia for me, just because I have such like vivid memories of trying to figure out what it was actually called and being like kind of blown away by it when I saw it. I thought it was really cool. But what was your favorite Disney Channel original movie? Was it Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off, Brink, Motocross, Cadet Kelly, Xenon, Gotta Kick It Up? Let me know down below. But that is gonna do it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Thanks as always to my Patreon supporters. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Leave a like on the video if you're into that kind of thing. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I'm mostly okay, and we'll catch you all later.